So, welcome to the first panel and thank you all for being here. And as we have a fairly large canvas, I will start off without much ado. So, when we speak about Bombay to Mumbai and this AQI and dreams, so one very common topic that comes up is the making of the financial capital, Herbs Prima and Indus. Herbs Prima and Indus obviously cover a vast gamut, whether it is shipping, whether it is the Bombay Stock Exchange, and several other financial initiatives. So now where we stand, the stock exchange does not need, the operations do not need physical settlements, banks don't need to be physically clustered together. We don't all need to be near the clearing house. Investment banking has gone global. Things have changed. So the gift city is not in Mumbai, PFRDA, the RBI Innovation Center, the IBPI, etc. These are all not in Mumbai. So my opening question is to Mr. Miranda. Sir, where are we now heading as a financial capital? How is it changing?
Thank you, Mr. Venkatesh, and Prabhat, thank you for getting me on stage for my first Litfest here. Thank you. So I was reflecting on the question which you sent us. I was born in Mumbai, and then I left and I traveled with my dad. With my dad, I traveled all over the country, and I came back and I started reliving in Mumbai when I went to college. And then except for 3 years, I've lived the rest of my life in Mumbai. And I've been in financial services, so some financial capital. But the reason why Mumbai became this big city also was, and Bharat will have a lot more stories to talk about it, and I've done a lot through his team. But it's really, we had a great port, we had the textile business, we had, the Gujaratis and the Parsis and all the merchants over here. We had the railway line, and that sort of helped create it as a business hub over here. And then there was obviously the geographical, what was you talked about, the geographical proximity to the RBI and to the stock exchange, and therefore the need to be close over there. That's not required anymore. For example, the regulator for insurance is in Hyderabad, the pension fund regulator is in Delhi, the government is in Delhi, but the RBI is still over here. So, despite that, we still see it around over here. I remember actually when we started HDFC Bank in '94, that's the first time we said, let's not have the dealing room necessarily in town. It was the first dealing room which moved out, ICICI Bank did the same. Because we said we don't need to be in proximity to the fort area for the check collection and all that stuff. So why is it that, and then obviously other BKC got set up and then developed as an alternative hub. And still we see people coming around. In fact, the only friends I have over here besides Prabhat are all from financial services. And we're meeting up over here after a long time. But it will still continue because it's sticky. You look, for example, at the UK, London is still the hub. You look at New York is still, you look at the US, New York is still the financial hub despite other stuff. But it can spread out because cost of living is high. But when you look at what's going to be the future of it, part of it depends on the livability over here and what other places offer. You don't necessarily need to be here. So, as we were talking about earlier, in the investment side, people have moved to Bangalore and Delhi in a large way, so you don't need to be there. And I remember this conversation many years ago with a friend of mine who was in G Capital. And he was a Bombay guy, and then he was asked to join G Capital in Delhi, and he said, I have to be in Mumbai because I'm dealing with bankers. That's not necessarily anymore. So today with technology, Zoom calls, etc., you don't necessarily be there, but it's sticky. And I think as long as we can make sure that the air quality is sort of livable, you're not going to have people wanting to move out. There is obviously things to look at, cost of living, commute time, real estate costs, AQI, etc. But I think for a long time, Mumbai will still be the financial capital. But there will be other capitals around. There will be other sort of dispersed. There will be other hubs over here, like earlier just being in town. You then now have the BKC. There will be something further up over there.
Anything to add?
The way I look at, I'm audible. So the way I look at it is, this last line which was there, it is the rise of the rest, it is not the fall of Mumbai, right? As I think Thomas Friedman said in one of the, it's not the fall of America, that it is the rise of rest, and that's how it is. I think opportunities for a long time were very, very concentrated in this city, and that's why it was a cosmopolitan city. In the course of time, probably Gurgaon or Bangalore is going to compete for the crown of being the most cosmopolitan city.
Okay, with that, Bharat, if I can continue with you. See, our panel has a title on AQI, so let me deal with something on the AQI front. I definitely do recall one of the governor's wives, if I'm not mistaken. For those not familiar, interview from outside Mumbai, Hafkin Institute used to be the governor's house. And they moved there because the fort area was too congested and too dirty. And Parel had become a very industrial city, and I can understand about 100 plus chimneys, and the unsalubrious atmosphere is supposed to have led to the governor's wife also suffering. I'm sure many others also would have suffered, and the suburbs kept growing, and that's one reason why the governor's house also moved to Malabar. So this is not a new problem. We do have references of very unsanitary, unhygienic living, especially in the lower middle class and the labor class areas, the quote-unquote native town areas, the small residential areas with very poor ventilation. And till about 1855, we also had a water problem. Only by 1889, water started being comfortable, and those lines are still there and still running in Mumbai. So my question to Bharat is this problem of AQI? See, AQI is a term we use, it's a metric. But if I broadly say the problem of pollution and unsanitary life, is this a new term for an old problem? Old wine in a new bottle kind of a thing? Or historically, what's your view on the pollution and this whole gamut of issues that we face today? A lot of it seems to be a legacy from the past and nothing new that has suddenly come up right now. So, what has really changed? Or are we going to live with this hyper ventilating urbanism that we are famous for? And historically, where did we stand, and where do we go from here on this problem?
So, to start with, I'm a victim of AQI today itself, right? I'm coughing away to glory. That's a clear and present danger, as they say. So, but you have to realize these islands were not considered to be very healthy to stay on since the initial days itself, because they had a lot of mangroves. And they were the malaria-infested islands which come as a dowry to the British crown. Yeah? Charles II, currently we have Charles III, Charles II way back then in 1660s. Now you have to realize that from the day the Brits, they were English at that time, it's still not British. So when the English East India Company takes control of the city, they mention that an Englishman only survives 3 monsoons in Bombay, right? Which means whether it is snake bite, malaria, cholera, wars, that it's an unsafe city. Yeah, the mainland is unstable and they are in fear, right? So it's a small fledgling town. So since then it is considered to be a not so healthy place. It is not a planned town. It grows amorphously around the central area, which is Bombay Green, what we today know as Parliament Circuit. And then they are worried about the Marathas, the French, the Dutch attacking the city, so they fortify the city, what we today know as fort. So we are just outside the old fort. Yeah? Where Kala Ghoda is, the location is there, that is where the fort started and went right up till what is GPO. Yeah? So the haves ended up staying inside the fort, where they would pay 10 times the land price to stay within, but it is not a healthy place to stay because the walls are very high and fresh air cannot come in. Those staying outside have even worse conditions. Yeah, what is today known as the native town, which he mentioned. So approximately Dongri going up to Bhuleshwar and coming till Dhobitala. This entire area is not very great place to stay. So it's all a cesspool that the city is in. And hence Englishmen prefer to have a country home. So Parel and Lalbagh are the Alibag of its time, right? Today we run away from the city for better air, and that is exactly what people would do. They would go to a better place. The problem which happened was building of the what we know as the Great Breach, what today is the Haji Ali Sea face, yeah, that is bridged, and the Hornby Valley stops water from coming into the city. So large landmass, 60% of South Mumbai is reclaimed from the sea. Now all this becomes industrialized, as he mentioned. The problem in Mumbai is that air flows from the west to the east. So all these wealthy people have these fancy bungalows all along the eastern coast, because that is what the city faces, right? That is where everybody entered the city from, and they were having a bad time. As you mentioned, governor's wife, yeah, Lady Ferguson, who was staying in Parel, and she passes away there. That is when the governor decides to shift to what was the hunting lodge earlier. What is the Raj Bhavan today? Yeah, it is Lok Bhavan now, I think so. That's what it has been renamed. And the entire area of Malabar Hill becomes the new place for the rich and wealthy people to stay, while Paikala, Parel then slightly goes down in course of time, becomes more industrialized. I remember till the 60s there was a large problem. My parents used to stay in Dadar, and my mother insisted when she was pregnant that she should move to Vilaparle because Parel stinked, right? And the air would come right up to Dadar. So it's impacting in recent times. So industrialization certainly made a difference. It was bad. Government took special care, especially after the epidemic which came of plague, which came in 1896, and that is the first time the government planned something which is called the BIT, City of Bombay Improvement Trust, which lays out. So if today Shivaji Park area, Chembur, much of Sion, Matunga, Dadar East, all this is a planned area with tree-lined avenues, having footpaths. It is thanks to the plague. Yeah, the city learned better, so things were bad. In course of time, industrialization has continued. Currently, the major problem for AQI is the construction of all the projects which are going on, and I think so another 5 years we have to suffer this. But all cities which went through a boom time, I mean, those who have seen The Crown, yeah, there is a whole episode on how fog in London creates problems, and that was in the 60s, right, or 50s. And Beijing went through a very terrible time in the 80s and 90s. They cleaned up in time for the Olympics. So probably we need a big event for us to clean up. Probably 5 years down, but hopefully things are better. So for me, AQI meter is very simple. I stay in Vadala. I stay on the 14th floor. The day I see Bombay Stock Exchange, yeah, just next to my office, it's a good day. Yeah, and there are times when I can't see the neighboring building. Yeah, that is when I know the AQI is terrible, right? So, but as I say, there's always hope. We are lucky to have sea on 3 sides, which sucks a lot of pollution. So hopefully in a few years when most of the projects are over, but of course roads they will keep on digging. So there is no end.
Thanks. My next question is for you, ma'am. In fine arts, Bombay had evolved several styles, as we know, and from JJ school times, other types of art, and the diversity. We have company art, the progressive types, Durandar, the full genre by himself, and so there has been so much evolution, and Bombay, it was a mix of several styles. Now, my question to you, ma'am, is in modern contemporary Mumbai, what are the new narratives? And why I'm asking for narratives, as we all know, art depicts something of the society, either reality or aspired or abstract. There is an obvious, I think it's obviously very cliche, but there's an obvious connect with the times. So today, what are the new narratives that today's art stands for? And that's part one. Part two is, where do old institutions and schools of art stand now in terms of relevance?
Thank you for this question. The then Bombay, where दिल है मुश्किल जीना यहाँ जरा बच के जरा हट के या Mumbai. मेरी जान sir mentioned about all those problems that Bombay faced and even Mumbai currently is facing. So Bombay, Mumbai probably have been difficult in terms of living, in terms of financialization, industrialization, but it still achieved what it achieved. And even in the field of art, it has been the art and entertainment capital of India. From when it was Bombay, when we had the Company School of Artists or the Progressive Artist Group or Dhurandhar, the then Dhurandhar, they were making art which was always in dialogue with what was happening in society. So there were colonial encounters, there were freedom struggles related artworks, there were artworks which the progressive artists did for a new independent India. So they depicted the aspirations of our country. What is happening now? So today's Mumbai, do we have one particular school of art? No. Are we defined by a particular style? No. We are very fluid, we are very plural, we are very multidisciplinary, we are very cosmopolitan even in the field of art. And what has changed the narrative is the arrival of AI, digital art, immersive installations, which is changing the way the places of art are functioning, even the museums like NGMA is functioning. So we used to have a footfall of around 30 to 40,000 in a year. This year we experimented with a digital heavy and immersive technology heavy show by a Russian artist, and we witnessed that in just a period of 15 days we received more than 2 lakh visitors. So this is the change that is happening. This is the way art world is changing. The materials, it's no longer the old oil paintings or just certain mediums. People are experimenting with recyclable materials. I have been going to exhibitions where people are using paper cuttings and old cloth pieces and what not for that matter, mud, soil. There is so much variety which is happening in the field of art, from being a city where art was evolving. Today, Mumbai is also becoming a muse for artists. So what is happening in the city from the AQI perspective or the changes in the financial sector, this is also being captured by artists. The migration, the gender issues, the climate issue, the ocean pollution, these are being captured. This is how they are contextualizing their work. They are showing what is happening in the society, but no more limited to a school. The themes are rooted in what is happening in Mumbai, what is happening in India, but at the same time, they are also in conversation with the global contemporary styles and global contemporary themes and mediums, and they're experimenting a lot, they are innovating a lot. What would happen to places like JJ School of Art or the old institutions like National Gallery of Modern Arts or Bombay Art Society? These institutions, to a lot of people, young people in the world of art, might sound like traditional, conventional institutions, and yes, we are. But this is needed to, once again, contextualize, to provide continuity, to understand how it all happened. So the Bombay School of Art and now the multidisciplinary Mumbai art world, how it arrived where it arrived. It happened because JJ School of Art was here. So to understand the background, to understand the context, to understand the history, what is happening in the world of art now and where it all began, these institutions will always be relevant. But at the same time, as I mentioned, that we are doing a lot of innovations by way of using immersive technologies, digital technologies. Even JJ School of Art has started teaching the use of digital technologies and the new technology like AI while creating art. So there is a lot of innovation also which is happening in these institutions, and in my understanding, this will also continue. When we turn into Mumbai, we don't forget what Bombay was. So while the new schools will come, the new styles will come, the world of art will change, we are not going to forget. where it all started, and these institutions will remain relevant, and they are innovating. So in that sense, they will also attract the young audiences. As I mentioned, we attracted over 2 lakh young audience just in a period of 15 days time, and this is going to happen with all schools also. Thank you.
It's such a lovely topic. We can do a full day seminar on this. Would love to.
Venkatesh, before we move into anything else, can I just come back to the AQI topic?
Yes.
So I carry this gadget over here, and I wear this. I've been wearing this now for 2 years. This is a newer one. It's the privatization of air quality in the country. It's really sad. And so 2 years ago, I was in Bangalore, and at the Bangalore club, I met one of my father's friends, and he was having lunch with this guy, and this guy had something hanging around his neck, which looked like an old mobile phone. So I asked him, what's that? He just said, I come from Delhi, and the air quality is bad, so I wear this, and because it cleans up the air. So I said, some cranky old man. The next day, we were running I was in Delhi, and we were running a program at the Indian School of Public Policy, and there was another guy wearing this, and he was a senior vice president at Wipro, and he was attending a course we were doing, and I asked him, what's this for? And he said, when I come to Delhi for the last 2 years, I have asthma, so I wear this. So I said, 2 people in 2 days, I got to buy one. And I've been wearing it now regularly whenever I go to Delhi for the last 2 years. Whether it works or not, I've been asked this question, does it work or not? I said, I have no idea. All I know is that for the last 2 years, I haven't fallen sick after coming back from Delhi. Is it a placebo? I have no idea. And then recently, this got now is available on Amazon, much cheaper version. It's marketing pictures that it was tested by IIT Kanpur and made by IIT Kanpur alumni. But the fact is that you look at Delhi, and now even in Mumbai, people seem to be so callous and not concerned about the air quality. And you're right, I mean, in any growing city where there's construction work, there will be pollution. But then we've got to ask the question, in the last 1 month, this morning when I was driving in, you could see the skyline of Mumbai. So from your view, your gate, Bharat must have said, it's a good day. And why is it? I think possibly because the government has clamped down on some of the construction work, putting up those green screens outside your building, etc. So sometimes we just take things for granted until someone wakes up. Maybe we need the French president to run on Marine Drive to improve the air quality. I don't know yet. But the fact is that, sometimes we've got to challenge these things and make sure that we do something about it, because a lot of kids are getting affected. Young people, old people are getting impacted by this. And only then privatize air quality in the country, which is ridiculous.
Sir, I'll continue with you because, the next question is pretty much related to, the same topic. Since we are talking of dream, okay, dreams is also there in the title. So, from being an industrial city of prominence and once the country's largest port operation, we are now practically without our bills under the large-scale manufacturing, and we are significantly reducing port operations in a planned way, while we are quite surely some of it will remain. So with this, the entire labor population, the quote-unquote pride of Mumbai, the middle-class cultures, the fabric, there is a perception in society in amongst certain segments that this segment is getting marginalized, probably for want of economic opportunities. And Mumbai was famous for its social and economic mobility amidst all this industrial and financial milieu. So there is a perception, probably true or false, I would not be judgmental, but there is a perception that we seem to be transforming into a more elite, expensive city where old habitations of middle or low middle class, or in some cases this lovely old bungalows too, which define the social fabric of Bombay, are fast disappearing in Mumbai to turn to super luxury apartments or glass box offices. Century-old bridges connecting rail and pedestrian traffic. Those of us who take the train, we definitely feel the pinch. Century-old bridges are coming down to make space for personal car traffic-oriented new infrastructure. Maybe good, maybe bad. I am nobody to be judgmental. My question is to Sir, what is the redefined Mumbai city and its dreams going to be made of? Is the fundamental fabric only going to be tertiary sectors? What's the new dream?
So, our son beats us up a lot because he says there's too much of gentrification happening. But this gentrification happens across the world. We want to be Singapore. We cannot be Singapore unless we gentrify. Now, what happens then? Because you do have replacement. I'm not saying that we have to be a Singapore, but I'm saying if the government says we want to be a Singapore, it means we've got to hide away all the dirty parts of the city, which is an issue. Because they are part of the city, they are part of the ethos over here. And but I think what's clear is that as a manufacturing place, that's going to end over here. Because you can't have a city which has, at least the traditional type of manufacturing in the polluting industry. This is what we see happening all over the world. Even in Beijing, before the Olympic Games, they shut down a lot of the polluting businesses and move them out over there. You can do it in a communist country, it's more difficult to do it in a democracy. But similarly, you can do it in a sort of fake democracy like Singapore. You can't do that in a country over here that easy. But all over the place, you see cleaning up of areas. I was 2 days ago having a discussion about the Qutub area in Mumbai, in Delhi, and how they've cleaned up the place. So as a tourist, I'd love to go there. It's a lovely place, but people have been displaced from there as a result of it. So similarly, when you want to clean up a space and make it gentrified, it means people get relocated. And the unfortunate thing is today, and I learned this actually when I was studying urban policy over the last few years at ISPP and with some of our partners, instead of making the city more inclusive, we're actually building up more isolated places. And actually, if you look back at, say, New York, and I didn't appreciate this till I was told, in New York, you see most of the buildings do not have any compounds. They are next to each other. Buildings stuck like in Delhi, you see them connected to each other. Because the common spaces where people go for walks are open for everyone. So in Delhi you have, I love going to Delhi, besides the AQI problem, but it's just that the open spaces. I go for walks over there in the Qutub area, in the House area, and there are these large parks where rich and poor go together and walk. And you see that in Central Park in New York, you see that in Hyde Park in London, you see that in the parks in Delhi. In Mumbai, no. You have in your building, you will have a walking path in your building. You don't have to get out of the wall. A friend or a neighbor of ours who's now moved to one of the fancy buildings in Worli, he says, I don't want my building at all. I have everything inside my building. So why would you interact with the person outside? And once you realize that, you don't need to improve the infrastructure around it, you can have this very nice place within your compound, with a swimming pool, with your community, with your walking paths. You don't care about what's happening outside. And this is what one of our founding dean at ISPP said here. Policies for the poor are poor policies. So, if you, for example, said, okay, you're going to have a park that's going to be, everyone's going to use it, it will be maintained well. Look at Joggers Park in Mumbai, because everybody comes over there, it's looked after well. But if it is a park that only the poor people go to, it will be junked. So the fact that, we've got to sort of look at policies with an urban issues also in a different lens, because these isolated towers of grandeur do not make this an inclusive city.
Yes.
And in the past, it's always, people always talked about the fact that Mumbai was a lovely city where you see rich and poor living together. And there was this sort of, happy coexistence. If the economy turns bad and people are pushed, you will have challenges. And I think so. And I've actually learned to appreciate a lot of this through some of the non-profits that I've been working with, and seeing the way that people get discriminated against, either because of religion or because they're not married or because of the same-sex relationships. And that's really sad. Years ago, when we were in, backtrack a bit. A lot of people talk about the real estate cost in Mumbai and why it's unaffordable. So, when I was living in town, we lived on Altamont Road, and some of my neighbors are over here. I was studying in Chicago, and I was coming back to India, and I was speaking to the guy at Citibank one day and asked him, where would you be putting me up? And he said, in Bandra. I said, I'm not coming back to India. So he said, why? I said, I can't live in Bandra. I'm a town guy. Yeah? So he said, okay, I'll call you back. And He called me back the next day and said, Louis, do me a favor, live in Bangalore for 6 months and then I'll move you to town. So I said, okay, this is my character development stage. And I was miserable the first month. And in the last 30 or 8 years that I've been back, except for 2 years, we've lived in Bangalore.
We have time for 2 more questions within the panel, and then we'll take 2 quick questions from the audience. I think we are doing okay on time. The next question is to Bharat. See, it's a cliche, but we've always known that Bombay was very cosmopolitan. And we've had people of different nations, communities, ethnicities, and there were certain administrative protections given on the religious front. It's one of the few cities where we see several places of worship clustered together in the old areas, whether we talk from Crawford Market to Lohar Chowk and all, practically all faiths are there and very closely clustered. We probably are one of the few cities with 3 cathedrals, right? So we've been cosmopolitan in terms of multiple people working together, investing together in the same ships, managing agencies, etc., etc. So my question to Bharat is, where does 21st century future Mumbai stand in cosmopolitanism?
To look at future, that's what I do, look at the past first. When I say Bombay is a new construct, this entire area has been a trading post for millennia, right? And it has always been, any trading post across the world will always be cosmopolitan in nature. Because trade can only take place when people from different backgrounds come together, interact, and then they trade. Yeah? So it has to be a cosmopolitan place. The locations have been different. So it would have been Nalasopara at some point of time, Mahim at some point of time, Thane at some point of time. Eventually it becomes where we are, Mumbai, as the place from where the city grows. But it has always been cosmopolitan. When about 3.5 centuries ago, this was taken over by the East India Company, they gave incentive for people to come and settle in the city, right? And to ensure that this remains cosmopolitan, it is almost like today's Dubai, where incentives are given for different people to come, settle, and have freedom to do whatever they want to. So that has been, to a great extent, the credit, not as a trading post, enduring credit comes from the dockyard, the naval dockyard, because that is the first place of employment where, irrespective of your caste, creed, religion, you will be allowed to do whatever whatever, as long as you can work here, you will be paid. That is the DNA this city has, which comes from the dockyard. In course of time, the industrialization, so you have to realize, for the first 150 years of existence, it is a very, very Marathi minority and Marathi Hindu minority city, right? With people from around the world settling here. It is the industrialization that eventually makes this a Marathi city to a lot of extent. What changes is, after independence, India gets linguistic states, and that is when Mumbai, whether it should be part of Maharashtra or not, is the question. At that point of time, half the city speaks Marathi, half doesn't. So where does it go? Eventually it becomes part of Maharashtra, but what is important is, one of the leaders at that time, Shankar Dev, who was part of the Sanyukta Maharashtra movement, says that he promises that let it be part of Maharashtra and will ensure that this remains a cosmopolitan city. Right? So going forward, I clearly see the cosmopolitan nature of this city will continue to be in place, yeah, as long as it is within the ambit of the city.
Thanks. Ma'am, my question to you.
Can I ask a question, Bharat? Are we losing some of this cosmopolitan nature of it? And take, for example, when Uber started, okay, we got a science in 10 minutes, okay, when Uber started, I suddenly realized that every second cab driver I had was Muslim. So I asked them, why do I see so many Muslim drivers? He said, this is the only place where I can get a job. Yeah. And it's sad that, that nature, that sort of cosmopolitan culture that we had, I think is getting challenged today. When for example, we moved into a building in Malabar Hill for 2 years, in these last 30 odd years, we had to sign that we would be vegetarian. I should take the bones to the office and throw them out of the bag actually. But yes, it's things like that which make you wonder whether things are changing or whether this is not that significant. Any thoughts?
So, I think given the time limit, we can have this offline. This is what I believe. Yeah, but I would love to discuss this with you.
Of late, I mean, in the month of March being Women's Day, I was once dragged into an impromptu conversation. I mean, I was asked to speak. So I know Bombay still is with women's empowerment and the male support for it, the societal support, administrative support. That itself is a genre of history, whether we talk about Jagannath Shankar Sheth, Jamshedji, we talk about Badruddin Tyagji, Dadabai Naroji. I mean, if you see Dadabai's statue nearby, the plaque actually says mothers build nations. So we talk about Maharishi Karve, Savitribai Phule, Cornelia Sarabji, Yasmin Sarveya. Yasmin Sarveya is an important person from the banking side. So we've had, we had Hansa Mehta, who was part of the people who wrote the constitution. So this is a very large, long genre. So my question to ma'am is, since we are talking dreams, what should be the new dreams of Mumbai's young women, aspiring young women, and what are the glass ceilings as it stands now?
So all the legendary people who supported women's rights way back in Bombay opened doors for us. The young women of Mumbai must walk through them with confidence. And they should not just only walk through these doors, but also hold on to them to ensure that many more women enter through them. What is important is we have got access, we got education, we have got opportunities. At entry level, you see any organization, women are entering at large numbers. But what is lacking is the gap at leadership positions. So the young women must aim at scale for authorship, for leadership in corporate sector, in defense sector, in administration, in politics. You name the sector, women's representation at the top is limited. So in IAS, IPS, we are 20% in the services, the All India services. But when it comes to the key positions that we have in administration, district collector, the SP, the municipal commissioner, police commissioners, there are hardly 4 to 5%. The same happens with politics all across the country, 13 to 15% representation in parliament and legislature. But when it comes to total number of ministers that the entire country has, parliament and the state legislatures, if we count the states, it's hardly 5%. Corporates, 45% to 49% differ from corporate to corporate, women are entering, but boardroom positions only 20%. At the top, much lesser, which is what, as women of New Mumbai, as women of Mumbai, as women of an aspirational India which is looking for a Viksit Bharat 2047 or not, or a lot of other dreams that we are having for our country. Unless we dream that big, unless we do not give up because of marriage, because of childcare, because of elderly care, because of the double burden that we are carrying every single day, these dreams would remain dreams. Glass ceilings, a lot of them have been broken. I'll speak for Maharashtra since I am an officer working in the state of Maharashtra Pada. For last 75 years, we had not seen a female DGP, a female chief secretary, a female chief conservator of forest. Last 2 years, we have seen all these 3 positions filled by women. We are yet to see a female municipal commissioner in BMC, yet to see a female police commissioner, a female commissioner of MMRD, a female CEO at SRA, and so many more positions. But let us believe all of them have been filled. But there are more than structural barriers, there are internalized barriers that affect women and which are self-doubt. To the young girls who are present here, I would want to tell them that please don't hesitate to claim your space. Please don't hesitate to speak up for your rights. You have to do it despite the problems that you face at family front, despite the problems that you face at office front. You have to do it for the sake of many more women to enter through the doors which have been opened by the tremendous struggles of Savitribai Phule, who has to carry one extra sari with her just to start a school because the other people out there would throw garbage on her. How dare she think of educating women? We started from there. You have to go through much more to ensure that we are there where we belong, at the top. Thank you.
We have about 5, 6 minutes left. We can take 2 quick questions and probably 3, about 5, 6 minutes left. Any questions? Okay. Yeah, please.
Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me. I come from a suburban area called Jodhpur, which at one point Mr. Bharat would know was a trading post for the Portuguese. And Dombivli, Kalyan, Badlapur, Ambernath is part of the greater Mumbai region. This is also one of the larger suppliers of educated professionals who end up working in like economic hubs elsewhere in Bombay. But I find in terms of policy focus, there is very limited focus in terms of the kind of development infrastructure, the connectivity infrastructure that we see. So when we are talking about conversations around Mumbai and Greater Mumbai region, these hubs which have actually been catering to the economic activities or even the cultural activities of the city is largely missing. So it's not a question, it's probably just an observation.
Bharat?
See, at one point of time, those were the cities and we were the suburbs, right? There we are. And it's the other way around, and the center is moving. I feel the center of Mumbai metropolitan region in course of time will be Thane. Yeah, from there everything radiates out to various locations. I think the new infrastructure which is planned, especially the new metros coming up, the new highways coming up, ring roads coming up, is going to integrate this region better. I think so. Currently, the worst deal that any region in Mumbai metropolitan region is getting is Vasai. Badlapur and Kalyan will get its due in the coming days. Vasai, I think so, is not that well connected to the rest of the city. But it's a matter of another 5 years by which all the infrastructure should kick in. From the way I see it, I'm not expert on this.
Ma'am, would you like to add anything?
I totally agree with what has been told by Bharatji. This keeps shifting all across the history that we have seen. But fortunately, Government of Maharashtra has taken up so many projects to connect suburbs. And where I see is Mumbai 3.0. Sir mentioned about Thane, but I would believe that it is going to be Navi Mumbai, Panvel, Ulve, and that area which is going to be the next big hub. And there are some projects which are also taken in your area. Metro is connecting most of the suburb area. Mumbai metropolitan reason for that matter is one regional area for which government is hoping and aspiring to have minimum $1 trillion economy. So with that aspiration that the government is planning, working, lots of MOUs have been entered with international organizations and within the regional development authorities, which are going to definitely change the landscape there in Kalyan also. I am very positive for it. It's only that the Mumbai will be Mumbai 2.0, 3.0. There are different names that we keep giving to the city, but this will remain. And your areas are also definitely going to see a change.
Thanks. I think we can have one more question. We have about 3 minutes left. Anyone else would like to ask a question?
Can I ask a question? Thank you. This is a great panel. My question is that you discussed about how Beijing and the other big cities of the world have gone through a similar turmoil in terms of AQI falling down and massive pollution issues. We as a city have a lot of construction activity, not on the private side, but also on the government side. What are the learnings that we put into place to sort of aspect some of that? We cannot make all the mistakes themselves. We need to learn all the mistakes as well. So, are there any good practices? Are there any SOPs? Are there any things which are being planned or have been put into place by the government as far as what condition we're seeing right now?
person to speak on behalf of the law.
Probably ma'am can.
So this is my personal observation that stopping the construction works is not the right solution. It may give us a temporary 15 days breather when we see the skyline, we see the BSC, NSC, whichever building we want to see. Ideally, getting them done at the quickest possible speed is the way to go. Do we not want metro? Do we not want the bullet train to be completed at the earliest possible? The more it gets delayed because of any norms. Environmental concerns were raised in all these countries, all of the countries that we see today, the cities that we see as the most livable metropolises in the world have gone through crisis. That these are phases that have to happen, and there is so much cost to the measures. If we start undertaking them in a country which is still poor, which still has Dharavi and Chembur slums, and there is a cost to it. It has to be cut from probably the social expenditure which should happen at this stage. So my personal understanding of this is that probably we have to bear through coughs and colds and asthmas this generation so that the next generation doesn't have to go through. Otherwise we will delay it. We will only delay it.
Can I just jump in? No, I think the fact that you need to quicken construction is such an important thing as well. So for example, I was involved in the building of the Delhi airport. We built it in 36 months, 30 months, which is a record at that time. It can be done, but we talked about Beijing and the Olympic Games. The reason why Delhi airport happened on time was because of the Commonwealth Games. It had to be done. So whenever there's a timeline for something, it gets done. If there's no timeline, it just drags on. And I think that's important. Now, the interesting point is that there's no clarity in Mumbai as to what is causing the air quality. There's no sort of in Delhi what's causing the air quality. So unless we get consensus on what's causing it, then we can't fix the problem. But I think the reality is we got to live with it for some time and figure out how we can reduce it.
I think if you follow the norms, the AQI can come down. Yeah, you just have to be more strict in implementation. I think so. To a great extent, press has been very, very instrumental in putting pressure on authorities as well as on private construction also. If you look at over the last 1 year, there's a lot of press on this issue, and that has put pressure on everybody. Okay.
I'll just make a quick closing comment and kind of round this off. It's been a very thought-provoking conversation. And one thing which I would always say, change has been there in the city consistently. See, today we are seeing as if there is cataclysmic change. But 1865, when Bharat said, "I don't want a fort anymore," people were horrified. Said, "How can we live without a fort? We moved to town being the fort." Okay, then, most people today can't believe that Balapur had a railway station, a train that used to connect to Calcutta, the Imperial Mail and stuff like that. Colaba had a railway station. So, a lot of things came when the Gothic monuments were, quote unquote, hidden from public view by building the Marine Drive stuff. And today, Marine Drive itself, those 34 buildings are all part of UNESCO World Heritage Sites. But when they were built, people were horrified because then you can't see the Gothic buildings from the shoreline when the ships come in. So change has always been there. Sometimes it is positive, sometimes it's negative. Only hindsight can tell us. And verticalization also has been there in the past. It's not that that the construction problem is new. Way back 100 years ago, we opened up Dadar, we opened up Matunga, we had several of these newer areas coming up because the old areas could not take the pressure. So we will find new solutions. This is a dynamic city. We have always been led by very dynamic people at the helm of the affairs, whether from 1921 we had Sir Rajnarayan Chandravarkar and we had Farshah Mehta. We've always had good people at the helm of affairs. So we will tide over this. This is just one more blip. I'm very sure whether it's AQI or water or whatever, we will tide over and things will move on. If the Salsett railways no more, we'll find a new metro. If the Porter's railway doesn't work, we'll find something else. If the port doesn't have enough draft, maybe 25, 30 feet, we'll take the port to JNPT. If that doesn't have the draft, we'll take it to Palghar. So we'll still survive and we'll thrive. So Herbs prevailed in this, version 2, version 3 will continue, I'm sure. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Bharat. Thank you. Thank you so much.